What is going on? Are you cheating on me? My wife screamed when I walked in with another woman. I calmly said, your lover's wife wants to talk. My wife froze in shock, and what happened after that was absolutely beautiful. Melissa and I, a 34-year-old man, had been having couples game nights with our friends Chris and Ariel every other Friday for about 3 years. A little about us: I owned a boat repair and sales business. Melissa worked in corporate sales for a large hotel chain. Chris was an insurance broker and Ariel worked as a logistics coordinator for a transportation company, the typical suburban friendship package. But around February, Melissa started doing something curious. She would dress up a lot for game night. That is, she put in much more effort than on dates with me. We are talking about those expensive jeans, the perfume she saves for special occasions, her hair styled, as if she had a photo shoot, the makeup, the whole lot. Look, don't get me wrong. I've never had a problem with this, but it was something new in my wife, who had always been simple and natural. So one Friday I saw her spend 40 minutes on her makeup. Are you getting ready for the Oscars or something? I joked. She didn't even turn around. I like to look good. Is that a crime now? No, but we're going 2 blocks away to eat chips and play cards. She finally looked at me in the mirror. Maybe if you cared about your appearance, I would put less effort into other things. Silence. I was wearing clean jeans and a shirt. Apparently, I should have shown up in a 3-piece suit. What the hell do you mean? I asked. Nothing, honey. Let me finish, she smiled. At Chris and Ariel's house that night, I noticed other things. She laughed too much at Chris's jokes, even though they were terrible. I'm talking about a dad joke level at a funeral. Why don't scientists trust atoms? Chris asked, smiling. Why? Because they make up everything. Melissa almost spat out her drink laughing. Ariel gave her husband that look of embarrassment. I sat there feeling a tremendous secondhand embarrassment, and then I saw it. She touched Chris's arm when she laughed. Chris's eyes did that little blinking thing, a quick glance at her hand, then at me, and back to the table as if nothing had happened. Ariel was in the kitchen getting more drinks and missed it. I filed it away in the mental folder labeled weird. Investigate later. The next morning, Saturday, Melissa got up early and was dressed as if she had a business meeting. Where are you going? To the gym. And then run some errands. Which gym? The usual one. Why are you interrogating me? Because you hate the gym and it's 8 in the morning on a Saturday. You usually don't regain consciousness until 10. She grabbed her keys with an annoyed huff. I'm trying to be healthier. I'm sorry if that bothers you. She was gone for 4 hours. She came back with a shopping bag. 4 hours for a single bag that contained yogurt and granola. I'm not a detective, but I can do basic math. This didn't add up. My brother Danny stopped by the workshop on Tuesday. He's 3 years younger than me, but somehow he has his life more in order. He's a physical therapist. He's married to a woman who really loves him and lives in one of those houses where everything matches. He took one look at me and knew something was wrong. How's Melissa? Fine. Why? Because you have the face of someone who had their coffee spit in and still drank it just to prove a point. How poetic. She's been weird lately. Weird. How I told him about the gym visits, the game night situation, and the general feeling that I had become a supporting character in my own marriage. Danny shook his head. Daniel, I love you, but you're being an idiot. Look at her phone. I'm not going to look at her phone. That's for psychos. More psycho than pretending everything is fine while your wife is probably screwing someone else. He was right. I hated that he was right. That night, I tried the direct approach. I sat Melissa down and told her I felt like we were roommates who occasionally glanced at each other. I need to know if something is wrong. If you're done with this, just say it. She sighed. You're being dramatic. I've been busy with work. The Riverside contract is killing me. The Riverside contract, sure, that's what we're calling it now. Her eyes turned cold. What is that supposed to mean? It means you're out all the time, you're distant when you're here, and you look at me like I'm an obligation you forgot to cancel. She went upstairs. I sat there for another hour thinking. Friday came again. Game night at our house. This time I made grilled burgers and my famous garlic potatoes. Chris and Ariel arrived at 7. Chris came in with an energy I can only describe as peacock, like a tight shirt, hair styled as if he just left a salon. Did you get a haircut today? He touched his head as if he were in a shampoo commercial trying something new. Melissa's eyes lit up. It looks great on you. It really brings out your jaw. I almost dropped the spatula. Since when? Chris's jaw looked like it was designed by a committee that couldn't agree on the angles. The night got worse. They kept having these little moments. She would pass him a drink and their hands would touch for too long. He would tell another terrible joke and she would laugh as if it were the best work of Chris Rock. Ariel noticed too. I saw it in how she fell silent. Around 10, Melissa went to the bathroom. Chris looked at his phone, smiled smugly at something, and then stood up. I'm going to get another drink, he announced to no one in particular. He walked past the kitchen where the drinks were and headed towards the hallway where the bathroom was. I looked at Ariel. She looked at me. We both knew. I stood up. I forgot something in the garage. I'll be right back. Instead, I went to the hallway and stood around the corner. Sure enough, Chris was waiting outside the bathroom door like a damn stalker. Melissa came out. They didn't see me. He whispered something to her. She smiled, touched his chest. He took her hand, squeezed it, and then let go when they heard Ariel laugh at something on her phone in the living room. I went back to the garage. I stood there for a minute, letting my blood pressure do its thing. Then I grabbed a random screwdriver I didn't need and went back inside. The rest of the night, I kept my cool. I laughed at the right moments. I made conversation and watched my wife flirt with my friend while his wife sat 3 feet away drinking and pretending her marriage wasn't falling apart. After they left, Melissa went straight to bed without a word. I stayed up and opened our online credit card statement. I started seeing charges that at first I didn't recognize, and then I recognized them well. Meals at restaurants on days she said she was at the office. A hotel charge from 2 weeks ago when she told me she was at a hospitality conference in the city. The conference was local. I looked it up on my phone. Her hotel chain was hosting it at their flagship property, 20 minutes from our house. She had paid for a hotel room to sleep with Chris. The rage started to build slowly like pressure in a sealed container. By the time I finished reviewing 6 months of statements, I knew exactly what I was going to do. I took screenshots of everything on my phone, opened a separate bank account online the next morning, and transferred half of our joint savings. If this was going where I thought it was going, I wasn't going to let them fleece me. On Monday afternoon, he sent a message to Ariel. Coffee this week. I need to talk about something. She replied in less than a minute. Thursday is good for you. 2 p.m. We met at a place downtown far from any place where our respective spouses might randomly appear. Ariel looked tired. She didn't waste any time. You know, right? Yes. And you? She nodded. I've suspected for a while. I found a receipt in his pocket last month. Dinner for 2 at that Italian place he claims to hate. He said it was a business dinner. On Valentine's Day, she laughed humorlessly. On March 2nd, the week after Valentine's Day, I got flowers and a card. She apparently got lobster. I slid my phone across the table. I showed her the credit card charges, the hotel receipt, and the screenshots of the messages. I finally managed to see where Melissa was talking to her friend Jean about seeing him and how exciting it was. I had grabbed her phone while she was in the shower that morning. Ariel looked at everything. Her face didn't change, she just absorbed it, as if she had been preparing for this moment. She looked up. What do you want to do about it? I asked. I want to set it all on fire, she said with the same calmness as if ordering a coffee. But intelligently. I'm listening. We spent 2 hours planning. It turns out Ariel is not just a logistics coordinator. She had a background in finance before having kids. She used to work in auditing. She handles the accounts at home. She knows where every dollar goes. And Chris had been careless. He's been taking money out of our joint account, she said. Small amounts. He told me it was for client dinners and golf outings. Let me guess. There were no golf outings. She shook her head. I checked with his usual golf buddies through their wives. He hasn't played in 2 months. We compared notes. The timeline fit perfectly. The charges matched. The dates they were both busy lined up. There was a message I showed Ariel, the one I had screenshotted from Melissa's phone that morning. Melissa, Chris's wife, is so clueless. Ha. We literally kissed in his car outside their house. Last week while she was inside. Ariel's jaw tensed. That was last Thursday. I was at home with a migraine. How do you want to play this? She thought for a minute and then smiled. Chris's company has its annual dinner next month. A big fancy event. All the partners and clients. He's nominated for a promotion. She leaned forward. Melissa's hotel chain is providing the venue and catering this year, right? Yes, she mentioned it. She said she had to coordinate it for work. Perfect. Let's give them a night they won't forget. We started coordinating. She would investigate Chris's finances further. I would continue to track Melissa's movements. We would meet weekly to compare notes and plan. Before we left, Ariel took my hand across the table. Thank you for not making me feel crazy. You're not crazy. They're just assholes. Then we left separately like 2 people who had just had a forgettable business meeting. That night, I went home and made dinner. Melissa arrived at 8. She said she had worked late. How was work? Exhausting. The usual. She didn't notice I had opened a separate account. She didn't notice I had moved money. She looked at her phone, and went to bed. I stayed up late and started creating a folder on my laptop. Every piece of evidence organized as if I were preparing a legal case. My phone buzzed. Ariel, I found a credit card I didn't know about. He's been hiding charges, hotel rooms, jewelry. Lots of jewelry. She didn't get the jewelry. Ariel, I know. She attached a photo. It was a screenshot of a credit card statement. 5 different jewelry purchases in 3 months. Total $4,000. The next day, I checked Melissa's jewelry box while she was at work. Nothing new. No recent additions I could identify. I told Ariel. She replied, he's buying gifts for your wife with our money, and I'm supposed to be the clueless housewife. How sweet. This was going to be fun. Ariel and I met every Thursday for coffee. She brought a notebook to our 3rd meeting. She opened it. Chris has been withdrawing cash. Not from our joint account. He opened a new one that I wasn't supposed to know about, but I found the statements in his gym bag while I was doing laundry. How much? 000 in 4 months. On what, he turned a page. Hotels, restaurants. He took her to that resort in Scottsdale for a weekend. He told me it was a work trip. She showed me photos she had printed from the resort's website, then Chris's credit card statement. The charges matched. A weekend in mid-March. I checked my phone's calendar. Melissa told me she was visiting her sister that weekend. Her sister lives 2 hours away in Phoenix. I had called her sister yesterday. I asked her casually if Melissa had arrived okay that weekend in March. Ariel was watching me. What did the sister say? She said Melissa canceled at the last minute, some work emergency. We sat there for a second, then we both started to laugh. The kind of laugh you have when the situation is so absurd that you either laugh your head off or you break in half. We're living in a low-budget porn movie. Ariel snorted into her coffee. At least porn movies have better dialogue. Over the next 3 weeks, we gathered everything. Phone records, hundreds of messages and calls between them, most deleted from their phones, but still on the company records, credit card statements, hotel receipts. But we still needed visual proof, something undeniable. That's when I decided to take matters into my own hands. The following Wednesday, I called in sick to work. Then I sat in my truck across from Melissa's office building and waited. Sure enough, around 11:30, Melissa came out. Not alone. Chris was with her. They got into his car together. I followed him from a distance, staying a few cars behind, as if I were in a cheap spy movie. They drove to a hotel about 20 minutes away. I parked across the street in a supermarket parking lot, took out my phone, and started taking pictures, making sure the location services were on, so they would be time-stamped and geotagged. 2 hours later, they came out, Chris adjusting his collar, Melissa fixing her hair, and checking her reflection in a car window. I caught it all, sharp faces. I sent it all to Ariel immediately. She replied, beautiful. I did the same thing last week. It seems Wednesday is their day. We had them nailed. The company dinner was in 2 weeks. Chris had been preening as if he had already been given the promotion. Melissa couldn't stop talking about the event. Ariel and I finalized our plan while eating Thai food that Thursday. Here's what we'll do. Ariel pulled out the seating chart for the dinner on her phone. I volunteered to help organize it since they needed someone who understood logistics. So I helped arrange the tables. Chris and I are at table 4 with his boss and the senior partners. You and Melissa at table 6 with her regional manager and the corporate sales team. Perfect. Ariel smiled. I'm going to make a toast. A toast? She nodded. Chris. He thinks I'm playing the supportive wife role, praising him for his promotion. The typical corporate spouse crap. But I'm going to toast to honesty, loyalty, collaboration, all while this plays in the background. She showed me her laptop. She had created a PowerPoint photo presentation. She said she had told the event organizer it was a tribute to the company's values. At first glance, it looked like a sweet montage of couples and company successes, stock photos, mixed with some real company photos, but mixed in subtly at first, and then more obviously were our photos, the ones we had taken with date, time, and location clear as day. That's crazy. She closed the laptop. I'm not going down quietly. And you shouldn't either. I raised my glass to setting it all on fire, to burning it to the ground. She smiled. The 2 weeks passed slowly. Melissa maintained her routine. Chris and Ariel came to game night one more time, and Chris had the audacity to win at Scrabble and gloat. Ariel played her part perfectly. Supportive wife. Meanwhile, she was about to annihilate his career from orbit. The night before the dinner, Melissa asked me to help her zip up her dress. How do I look? You look great, she smiled. The first real smile she had given me in months. Thank you. This event is very important for work. It could lead to a promotion if I handle it well. Yes, I can imagine. The company dinner was in a downtown hotel ballroom. 200 people open bar, a fancy multi-course dinner. I put on my good suit, the one I saved for weddings and funerals. Melissa wore a black dress. We arrived separately. I walked in at 7 and found table 6. Melissa was already there laughing with her co-workers. She saw me, waved, and went back to her conversation. Chris and Ariel were at table 4. Ariel looked at me from across the room and gave me an almost imperceptible nod. Showtime. The dinner began. There were speeches. Chris's boss talked about the company's values: integrity, trust, collaboration. The irony was so thick you could spread it on toast. Then came the recognition part. They called up 3 people who were going to be promoted. Chris was the last. He went up on stage as if he had already won an Oscar. He shook hands, accepted his new title. Senior Account Director Ariel stood up and clapped with everyone else. She smiled like a proud wife. When Chris sat back down, Ariel stood up again, tapped her glass with a fork. The room gradually fell silent. I'd like to say a few words if you don't mind. Chris's face went from confusion to pleasure. Ariel walked to the front. The organizer handed her a microphone. She seemed completely calm. What happened next was recorded by at least a dozen phones. But I'll tell you how it felt in real time. I want to thank everyone for being here tonight. She paused. Chris works very hard. Long nights, weekend trips, client meetings. She clicked the remote she had gotten from the AV tech, telling him she had a surprise presentation for her husband. The big screen behind her lit up. In fact, he's been working so hard that I wanted to share some of his recent accomplishments. The presentation began. At first it seemed normal. Photos of Chris at work events, in the office, shaking hands. Then it changed to a photo of Chris and Melissa entering a hotel, another of Chris and Melissa at a restaurant, holding hands across the table. The room went silent. Ariel kept talking. These are my husband's real accomplishments. 6 months of lies. 12,000 of our joint savings spent on hotels, restaurants, and gifts. She clicked again. Bank statements appeared on the screen: charges, hotels, jewelry stores, restaurants. Chris stood up, his face red. Ariel, what the hell? Ariel interrupted him. I'm not finished. She looked at the screen. This jewelry. For 1,000. None for me. She looked directly at Melissa. Did you get the earrings, or was he a cheapskate? Melissa's face had gone white. Everyone was looking at her. Her regional manager, her co-workers, random people from Chris's insurance company. I stood up and walked to the front. Melissa has also been working hard, I said. I took out my phone, connected it to the presentation system, and showed everything I had. Then I showed the screenshot. Melissa, Chris's wife, is so clueless. Ha. We literally kissed in his car outside their house last week while she was inside. Ariel came up beside me. I was inside with a migraine that night, wondering why my husband was taking 45 minutes to check the mail. The room was in a sepulchral silence. People were holding up their phones. Some were recording. This was going to be in every group chat and social media by morning. Some just held back their laughter. Chris tried to save the situation. This is crazy. You're both. This is slander. Ariel held up a folder. These are the divorce papers, already filed, already served. You can pick up your things from the driveway. I changed the locks this afternoon. I pulled out my own folder. Same for you, Melissa. Separate accounts established. You'll hear from my lawyer on Monday. Melissa stood up. The panic in her eyes was priceless. She tried to walk towards me. Daniel, can we? No, I kept my voice firm. We can't. Chris's boss stood up, an older man who looked like he wished he were anywhere else. Mr. Harrison, we're going to have a conversation on Monday morning. First thing. Chris's face fell apart. Sir, this is a misunderstanding. The boss looked at the screen, which still showed the bank statements. The evidence. It's a misunderstanding that you used company time for personal matters, that you falsified expense reports. Ariel smiled. I've highlighted those as well at the end of page 3 of the packet I emailed you yesterday, sir. 6 different expense reports claiming client dinners. I've cross-referenced them with Chris's actual calendar from his company laptop that he leaves open at home, and the client contact records from his CRM system, which I was able to access through Chris's saved passwords. None of those clients were even in town on those dates. Melissa grabbed her purse and tried to leave. I stepped aside, let her pass. She practically ran out of the ballroom. Chris followed her 30 seconds later after his boss said something sharp and in a low voice. 200 people were watching. Some looked shocked, some looked compassionate, a few were definitely amused. The dessert is probably still to come, I said into the microphone. It would be a shame to waste it. Some people laughed. Someone near the back started to clap. Then a few more joined in. Ariel and I walked out together. We left our respective spouses to deal with the consequences. Outside the hotel, we stood under the valet parking awning. My hands were still shaking from the adrenaline. That went well, Ariel said. Better than expected. She looked at her phone. Someone has already tagged me in a TikTok. Of course they have. We stood there for a minute. Then Ariel started to laugh. To really laugh. I started to laugh too. We stood there like two idiots laughing our heads off under the city lights while our marriages burned behind us. Want to get a drink? Ariel asked. Why don't we walk 3 blocks to a dive bar, order some drinks, and sit in a booth in the back? At first we didn't talk about the dinner, we didn't talk about our exes, we just talked about normal things, movies, music, how Danny was trying to convince me to start cycling, and I'd rather eat glass. Around midnight, Ariel's phone vibrated. She looked at it, laughed. Chris is asking where I am. He says we need to talk. Melissa has sent me 6 messages. I held up my phone. We both silenced our phones and made a toast to it. The next morning, my phone had 87 missed calls and about 200 messages. Most from Melissa, some from her friends trying to defend her. A few from mutual friends asking what the hell had happened. Danny called at 8 in the morning. Dude, you're a legend. Someone sent me the video. There's a video. There are several videos. They've blown up the internet. The main one has like 100,000 views already. Great. He laughed. How do you feel? Like I just took out the trash and realized how much space it took up. It felt good, but the real adrenaline come down was about to begin. Melissa stopped by the house around noon. I had changed the locks like Ariel did. I went to the hardware store first thing. It took me 2 hours to change them. She rang the doorbell, knocked on the door, and finally started shouting through it. Daniel, open up. We need to talk. I opened. I didn't let her in. You humiliated me, she hissed. How could you? You humiliated yourself. I just put a mirror in front of you. That was cruel. In front of everyone. You slept with our friend for 6 months. You spent our money on your affair. I held up the folder with the inventory of her things. Here is the list of your belongings. Everything is in boxes in the garage. You can pick it up this weekend. Bring someone to help you load it. You can't just kick me out of my house. Actually, I can. The house is in my name. You are free to dispute it with your lawyer. Mine says I'm covered. Her face went through about 6 emotions and settled on desperation. Honey, she reached out to touch me. I took a step back. We can fix this. Counseling, therapy, whatever you want. I don't want anything from you. She tried tears. They didn't work. You'll regret this, she said with the venom returning to her voice. I doubt it, but you might regret spending 6 months with a guy who got fired and now lives in a motel because his wife locked him out. Her eyes flickered. Chris was fired this morning. His boss called him at 7 in the morning. Apparently, falsifying expense reports is frowned upon. Also, there was a morality clause in his contract. Carrying on an affair using company resources. He's finished. She stood there processing and then left without another word. I closed the door and went back to my coffee. Chris tried a different approach. He showed up at my workshop that Wednesday, and honestly, you have to have balls. I was reviewing a restoration estimate with my lead technician Miguel when his car pulled into the parking lot. Chris walked up trying to look casual and failed miserably. Daniel, dude, can we talk? We're talking alone. I pointed to the empty parking lot. We're pretty much alone right now. Chris shifted his weight uncomfortably. Look, I know things got complicated. Complicated. I nodded. That's one way to put it. But we're adults. We can get through this. I stared at him. You slept with my wife for 6 months. You spent $12,000 on it. You got yourself fired. You ruined her reputation and you want to get over it. He actually seemed offended, as if I were being unreasonable. It wasn't just physical. We connected. We really connected. Oh, good. That makes it much better. Are you being a dick about this? That I'm being a dick. I put down my clipboard. Chris, you're lucky I'm not pressing charges for the money you embezzled from your company to finance your little romance. His face went pale. I didn't. That's not. Ariel documented everything. She has copies too. Human resources at your old company has them. They're still deciding whether they want to move forward with it. So unless you want that to go further, I suggest you walk away and never contact me or Ariel or anyone in our circle ever again. Chris tried to puff out his chest. He failed at that too. You don't own people. Miguel stepped forward. He's a burly guy, like he throws beer barrels for fun. The boss said to get lost. You need a translation. Chris left. Miguel shook his head. That guy is a snake. Yes. Meanwhile, Ariel was dealing with her own fallout. Chris had tried to empty their accounts before she locked him out. She had been faster. She got a lawyer, froze everything, filed the lawsuit first. We saw each other again that Friday. Our new tradition, apparently, she seemed lighter. Chris's lawyer called mine. She said he wants to negotiate. Negotiate? What? He thinks he deserves half of everything, because we were married for 10 years. She laughed. And what did your lawyer say? That Chris can negotiate with a wall for all he cares. We have documentation of dissipation of marital assets. He spent $1,000 on the affair. That comes out of his share. Plus my lawyer is going for full reimbursement since I can prove it wasn't for marital purposes. She sipped her latte. Also, Chris's parents called. They want me to reconsider. Reconsider what? Divorcing their precious little boy. Apparently, I'm ruining his life. Over the next few weeks, things settled into a new rhythm. I worked, hung out with Danny, went to the gym with Miguel, and started to really enjoy my house. Ariel and I kept meeting for coffee. Then coffee turned into lunch. And lunch turned into her coming over to help me decide which furniture to keep and which to sell, since Melissa wanted half of everything. We didn't plan it. We didn't force it. It just happened naturally. One Saturday, we took our dogs for a hike. She had a golden retriever named Muse. I had a mutt named Steve. They got along better than our exes ever did. Steve is a weird name for a dog, Ariel said as we walked along the trail. He came with it, shelter dog. I thought changing it would confuse him. How considerate. I'm a considerate guy. She looked at me. Yes, you are. Something changed that day. Just a quiet understanding that we worked together. Not just as partners in revenge, but as real people who made each other laugh and didn't have to pretend. 2 months after the dinner, my divorce was final. Melissa tried to fight. She wanted alimony. Her lawyer took one look at the evidence of the infidelity and advised her to accept the deal I offered. The state law says that infidelity affects the division of assets. She signed. I signed. Done. Ariel's took a little longer. Chris contested everything. He dragged it out for 4 months, but in the end, even his lawyer got tired of his nonsense and convinced him to settle. The day Ariel's divorce was finalized, we went to that same dive bar where we had gone after the dinner and celebrated. We clinked our glasses. So now what? Now I shrugged. Whatever we want. She smiled. I like the sound of that. 6 months after the dinner from hell, life had become strangely good. My business was doing well. Ariel's career recovered even better. She left her logistics coordinator job and started her own supply chain consulting firm. She started small, did some contract work, and built a client base. Her first major client, Chris's old insurance company. They hired her to overhaul their vendor management system. The irony was perfect. We had been officially dating for 3 months. We took our time. She was at my house most weekends. Our dogs had become inseparable. They would cuddle together on the couch while Ariel and I cooked dinner or watched whatever show we were binging. Danny loved her. The first time I brought her to a family dinner, he pulled me aside. If you screw this up, I'm disowning you. Good thing I don't plan on screwing it up. She's too good for you. Shut up, Danny. Miguel loved her too. She had started stopping by the workshop with drinks for the team. Sometimes she won them over immediately. Your woman brings quality espresso, Miguel said one morning. She's a keeper. Noted. Plus, she laughed at my joke about the concrete mixer. She has a good sense of humor. Your jokes are terrible. She laughed anyway. We didn't publicize the relationship much publicly. We weren't doing it for show, but of course news travels. And it finally reached Melissa. I was at a hardware store on a Saturday when I saw her. She was with a guy I didn't recognize, young, probably in his 20s, with a graphic tee and ripped jeans, like he was auditioning for a boy band reunion tour. She saw me. Daniel. Hi, Melissa. The guy next to her looked confused. This is Connor, she said, my boyfriend. Connor extended his hand. I shook it. Honestly, I felt sorry for him. The kid had no idea. Nice to meet you, Connor. A piece of advice. Check the credit cards regularly. Connor laughed nervously. Melissa's face turned red. I grabbed my card. Have a nice day? Wait. She stepped forward. I heard you're with Ariel now. Yes, that's right. Do you know what I mean? We're barely divorced, and you're already. I'm already. What? Happy. Yes, it's great. And she's not sleeping with someone else behind my back. A novel concept, right? The guy Connor shifted uncomfortably. Maybe we should go, Mel. She ignored him. Her face was hardening. I was about to say something, but I walked away. I left her standing there with the boy band guy. I got home. Ariel was in the kitchen making pancakes. Steve and Muse were lying in a sunbeam looking like a dog food ad. We ate, made plans to go hiking later. A normal Saturday, the kind of day that feels good because it's simple and real and not built on lies. 10 months after the dinner, Ariel and I decided to get married. A small ceremony, just family and close friends. Danny was my best man. Miguel offered to help with the catering as his gift. We planned to say our vows under an oak tree at a small venue outside the city with both dogs standing between us as witnesses. No public spectacles. We were genuinely happy together and wanted to build something. But the universe wasn't done with the comedy yet. The day arrived, perfect weather. Everyone showed up. The place looked beautiful. Ariel's sister helped her get ready while Danny made sure I didn't mess up my tie. We were about 15 minutes from starting when I heard raised voices from the parking lot. Now what Danny said. We walked over, and there she was, Melissa, stumbling on the gravel in heels too high for someone in her state. Her hair a mess, her makeup smudged, as if she had been crying, a dress that looked like it was pulled from a clearance rack at 3 in the morning. She was drunk or on drugs, maybe both. And honestly, I should have expected something like this. She pointed at me with a trembling hand. You can't do this. Ariel appeared by my side, looked at Melissa with more pity than anger, and then at me. Do you want me to call the venue security? We had hired Miguel's cousin who worked as a bouncer part-time to handle any problems. A smart move in retrospect. But before I could signal him, Melissa lunged forward. This is wrong, she was shouting now. Everyone had stopped. The guests were staring. Ariel, you stole my husband. Ariel raised an eyebrow. I didn't steal anything. You threw him in the trash, and I picked him up. Melissa's face contorted with anger and tears. You both planned it. You wanted to ruin my life. Danny stepped forward. Melissa, you need to leave now. She tried to get past him, lost her balance, and grabbed the edge of a nearby table to steady herself. The table with some appetizers and unfortunately samples of our wedding cake that we had put out for guests to try. Oh shit, Miguel muttered from somewhere behind me. This is where it got beautiful. Melissa regained her balance and lunged towards us again. Danny, bless his heart, acted on pure instinct. He grabbed the closest thing, which happened to be a plate with a piece of sample cake, and in a panic to keep her from getting closer, he basically planted it in her chest to defend himself. The piece hit Melissa and slid up to her face, leaving a trail of frosting down her neck and chin. She froze. The cake dripping the frosting in her hair, the sugar sliding down her dress. The whole place went silent. Then Miguel started to laugh. That contagious laugh that makes everyone else crack up. In seconds, half the guests were trying not to lose their composure. Danny looked at his hand, looked at Melissa, and then at me. Oops. I couldn't help it, I just couldn't. I started to laugh too. Ariel hid her face in my shoulder, her shoulders shaking. Melissa wiped the frosting from her chin. You too. She couldn't form words, just stammered and grabbed the table again, maybe for something to throw back. But Miguel's cousin, with his 6 feet 5 inches and 250 pounds, finally stepped in. Time to go, ma'am, he said, and gently took her by the elbow. Get your hands off me. She tried to pull away. He didn't move. Can you walk or can I escort you? You choose. She tried to break free, couldn't, so she did the next best thing. She started to scream. Incoherent nonsense about betrayal and karma, and how we would all regret this. The bouncer escorted her towards the parking lot. She fought him all the way, stumbling, shrieking, leaving a trail of cake crumbs. Connor, yes, the same Connor from the hardware store, appeared from somewhere, ran after her, and tried to help. The bouncer handed her over to him. Keep her away from he said to the bouncer. Or I'm calling the police. Connor nodded frantically. Got it. I'm so sorry. She said she just wanted to leave a card. Yes, Ariel said dryly. That went well. They left. Finally, the parking lot cleared. Danny looked at the remaining cake. There's still most of it left. We're good. Miguel came over. Phone in hand. Bro, I got it on video. He held up his phone. Do you want me to send it to you? Absolutely. Ariel shook her head, but she was smiling. She showed up drunk to ruin our wedding, but failed spectacularly, Danny added. Because I have excellent panic reflexes. Ariel started laughing again. I pulled her close. Are you okay? She looked at me. She looked at the venue full of people who were now talking excitedly and probably already texting everyone they knew. Yes. She beamed. In fact, I'm great. It was the most satisfying disaster I've ever witnessed. We cleaned up. The ceremony started 20 minutes late. No one cared much. If anything, it broke the ice and gave everyone something to talk about. People were relaxed, laughing. By the time Ariel and I stood under that oak tree, the atmosphere was perfect. We said our vows. We exchanged rings, we kissed while everyone cheered, and we started our marriage the right way, honest, open, real, with our dogs as witnesses and the memory of Melissa wearing cake frosting as an accessory. For months after the wedding, Ariel got pregnant. When the test came back positive, we both cried. I called Danny. He shouted with joy so loud I had to hold the phone away from my ear. Life went on, and it was good, really good.